In the heart of Boston, Massachusetts, life has a way of serving the coldest dishes of irony. This is the story of Michael Thompson, a successful real estate developer who thought he had everything figured out. One rainy November evening, his comfortable life takes an unexpected turn when he decides to help a homeless woman seeking shelter from a storm. Little did he know that beneath the layers of worn-out clothes and years of hardship, he would find Sarah, the woman who left him 15 years ago, disappearing with half of his savings and leaving nothing but a cryptic note behind. What follows is a tale of confrontation, buried secrets, and the thin line between revenge and redemption. Sometimes the past doesn't just catch up with you, it shows up at your doorstep, asking for shelter. Michael Thompson stood at his penthouse window, watching the rain hammer against the glass. At 45, he had rebuilt his life from scratch. New company, new wealth, new status. The Boston skyline, usually a reminder of his success, seemed different that night. The weather alert on his phone warned of the worst storm in decades. That's when he saw her, a figure huddled in the building's entrance, fighting against the wind. His doorman, James, was trying to shoo her away. Something made Michael grab his coat and head downstairs. "I'll handle this, James," Michael said, approaching the trembling woman. Her clothes were soaked, her grey hair matted against her face. "Ma'am, there's a shelter 3 blocks from here. Please," her voice cracked. "I've tried them all, they're full." She wouldn't look up, keeping her face hidden beneath a worn-out hood. Maybe it was the storm, or perhaps the 3 glasses of whiskey he'd had earlier, but Michael heard himself say, "I have a guest room upstairs." James shot him a concerned look. "Mr. Thompson, are you sure?" "It's just one night," Michael replied, already regretting his decision. As they rode the elevator, the woman kept her head down, clutching a small bag to her chest. The silence was deafening. When they reached his apartment, she finally looked up, and Michael's world stopped spinning. Those eyes, he'd know them anywhere. 15 years hadn't changed them. Sarah? The name felt like poison on his tongue. The recognition hit them both like a physical force. Sarah's weathered face drained of what little color it had, while Michael stumbled backward, gripping the nearest wall for support. I should go," Sarah whispered, turning towards the elevator, but the storm outside roared louder, rattling the windows, as if nature itself was keeping her there. 15 years. Michael's voice was dangerously quiet. 15 years, $500,000, and not even a goodbye. His successful businessman facade cracked, revealing raw anger underneath. Sarah stood frozen, her hands trembling. "You don't understand." "Understand?" Michael laughed bitterly. "I understood perfectly when I came home to an empty house, when I found my accounts drained, when your note said I had no choice." Each word carried years of buried pain. But something was off. The Sarah he knew had been confident, calculating. This woman seemed broken. Her eyes darted around like a trapped animal, and despite his anger, Michael's instincts screamed that there was more to this story. "You're right," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "I had no choice, and they're still watching." Before Michael could process her words, his phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent a message. "Found her yet?" Sarah's face went white as a sheet when she saw his reaction to the message. "They know I'm here," she whispered. "I've put you in danger. Again." Michael quickly pulled Sarah away from the windows, his mind racing. Despite years of resentment, his security training from the military kicked in. "Who are they?" he demanded. Sarah's hands shook as she reached into her tattered bag, pulling out a worn USB drive. "Remember that consulting job I did for Maxwell Industries before I left? It wasn't just accounting fraud I discovered. They were laundering money for a cartel, Michael. Billions." His phone buzzed again. "Nice penthouse, Mr. Thompson. Would be a shame if anything happened to it." "The note," Sarah continued, her voice breaking. "They made me write it. Take the money. Make you hate me. It was either that or they'd—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Michael's mind flashed back to that time. Maxwell Industries had collapsed months after Sarah's disappearance in one of the biggest financial scandals of the decade. But the CEO, James Maxwell, had somehow walked away clean. Why now, after 15 years? "Because I finally gathered enough evidence to bring them down." Sarah's eyes hardened. "But they found me first. I've been running for 3 weeks. I didn't know this was your building, Michael. I swear." Suddenly, the power went out. In the darkness, Michael's phone illuminated with another message. "Time's up, coming to say hello." The emergency lights kicked in, casting eerie shadows across Sarah's terrified face. The storm outside wasn't the only thing they needed to worry about anymore. Michael's tactical instincts took over. He quickly secured the door and activated his apartment's security system. "We need to move. They'll come through the service entrance first." Looking at Sarah, years of anger melted into determination. "This time we face them together." As they rushed to Michael's home office, Sarah revealed more. James Maxwell isn't just a corrupt CEO. He's the cartel's American face. The USB contains offshore accounts, murder orders, everything. That's why they've hunted me across 3 states. Michael accessed his security cameras through his tablet. 3 men in black suits were already in the lobby, talking to James, the doorman. His heart sank as James pointed toward the elevator. "There's something else," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "Our daughter, she's alive." Michael froze. "What?" "I was pregnant when they forced me to leave. They didn't know. I hid her with my sister in Canada. She's 14 now, Michael. Her name is Emma." The revelation hit him like a truck. All these years he'd had a daughter. The security feed showed the men entering the elevator. "We have 4 minutes before they reach this floor," Michael said, pushing aside his emotional turmoil. He moved to his safe, pulling out old military satellite phone. "But first, tell me exactly why they're moving now, after all these years." Sarah's next words chilled him to the bone. "Because Emma found me last month. She's too smart for her own good, just like you. She started digging into her past, into Maxwell Industries. They noticed. Now they're not just after me." The elevator dinged in the distance. "Emma's safe," Sarah quickly added, seeing the panic in Michael's eyes. "She's with my sister in Vancouver, but Maxwell's people are closing in. I need to get this evidence to the FBI before—" The sound of footsteps in the hallway silenced them. Michael led Sarah to his panic room, a reinforced chamber he'd installed after making his first $1 million. "You installed a panic room," Sarah whispered, a hint of their old intimacy creeping into her voice. "You always were paranoid." "Looks like I had reason to be," Michael replied dryly, checking his weapon. "Stay here. I'll—" "No," Sarah grabbed his arm. "I didn't survive 15 years of running to watch you die protecting me." She pulled a small revolver from her bag. "I'm not the same woman who left, Michael?" A loud bang echoed as the intruders breached the apartment's main door. Through the security feed, they watched 3 men in tactical gear sweep the living room, but it was the 4th figure that made Michael's blood run cold. James Maxwell himself, looking exactly as he did 15 years ago, except for the grey at his temples. "Michael," Maxwell's voice rang through the apartment, "I believe you have something that belongs to me. Let's be civilized about this. After all, we're all business people here." Sarah's hand found Michael's in the darkness of the panic room. "He never shows up unless he's confident of winning," she whispered. "He knows something we don't." Through the security feed, Maxwell pulled out his phone and held it up. "Perhaps this will encourage cooperation." The screen showed a live video feed of a teenage girl with Michael's eyes and Sarah's smile, sitting in what appeared to be a school library. "Emma!" Sarah gasped, her grip on Michael's hand turning painful. "Impossible," Michael muttered. "You said she was in Vancouver." She was... Sarah's face crumpled in realization. "They must have been tracking my calls." Maxwell's voice came again. "Your daughter takes after you both. Brilliant girl. Currently studying at Vancouver Secondary. Or should I say was studying. My associate is sitting 2 tables away from her right now." Michael's military training kicked in as he assessed their options. The panic room could withstand an assault, but with Emma in danger it became a trap rather than a sanctuary. "We need to split up," Michael whispered, pulling up the building's blueprints on a hidden monitor. "There's a maintenance shaft behind this wall. It leads to the parking garage." "You don't understand," Sarah's voice shook. "Last time I tried to outsmart them, they made me disappear for 15 years. This time they'll—" Michael cut her off, his expression fierce. "Last time you were alone, this time—" He pulled out his satellite phone. "I still have contacts from my military days. People who owe me favors." A message pinged on Maxwell's phone, visible through the security feed. His smug expression faltered slightly as he read it. While Michael made rapid-fire calls in hushed tones, Sarah accessed a hidden email account on the panic room's computer. "There's something else you need to know," she typed quickly. "Maxwell isn't just after the USB drive. He's after the activation codes." "Activation codes?" Michael whispered, covering his phone. Remember that military contract your company just won? The secure communication systems for East Coast bases? Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard. It wasn't a coincidence. Maxwell orchestrated your company's success. They needed someone with military clearance. The realization hit Michael like ice water. His company's meteoric rise, the suspicious ease with which he'd won government contracts, it had all been orchestrated. They've been grooming you, Sarah continued, making you successful, watching you build everything back up. They needed you to gain military trust again. The USB doesn't just have cartel evidence, it has a backdoor to your company's security systems. Through the monitor, they watched Maxwell checking his watch. 5 minutes, Michael. Then my associate in Vancouver gets impatient. Suddenly, Michael's satellite phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asset secured in Vancouver. Package Echo safe. Sarah saw the message and almost collapsed with relief. Echo, Emma's codename with my sister. Your contacts got to her first. Maxwell's phone rang. His face contorted with rage as he listened. For the first time, his composed facade cracked. Find her, he snarled at his men. Find the girl now! Maxwell's rage echoed through the apartment. Tear this place apart. They're here somewhere. His cool businessman facade had completely shattered. Michael quickly connected his satellite phone to the panic room system. My team has Emma. She's being taken to a safe house. He turned to Sarah, his expression hardening. But now we end this. 15 years is enough. You don't understand what he's capable of, Sarah warned, but there was a new fire in her eyes. He didn't just steal money and run drugs. He's been infiltrating military communications for years. If he gets those activation codes, he won't, Michael interrupted, pulling up building schematics on the screen. Because we're going to do what you should have done 15 years ago. We're going to destroy him together. Outside, Maxwell's men were systematically destroying the apartment. Through the cameras, they watched him pace, taking a call. Sir, they heard him say, we have a problem. Thompson's military contacts, they're not just retired soldiers. They're active NSA. Sarah's eyes widened. Your company. You've been working with the NSA. Let's just say I had my own suspicions about those contracts, Michael replied, checking his weapon. I've been building a case for months. All I was missing was proof of the cartel connection. He looked at the USB drive in Sarah's hand. The final piece. Suddenly, the panic room's lights flickered. A new voice came through the speakers, one that made Sarah's blood run cold. Found you, the voice said. Remember me, Sarah? Victor, Sarah whispered, her face ashen. Maxwell's tech expert. He's the one who forced me to write the programs that hide their money. The panic room's systems began to malfunction. Screens flickered, showing fragments of code. 15 years of hiding, Victor's voice crackled through the speakers. And you run straight to the one person we've been watching. Poetic, really. Michael's fingers flew across the keyboard, fighting to maintain control of the system. Sarah, the override sequence, now. As Sarah typed frantically, she explained, Victor was my mentor at Maxwell Industries. He discovered what I'd found and gave me a choice. Work for them or die. But he taught me too well. The screen stabilized momentarily. Through the security feed, they watched Maxwell pull out his phone, his face contorting with fury at a new message. NSA teams are moving on all Maxwell's properties, Michael said, checking his satellite phone. But we need to get that USB drive to them in the next 30 minutes, or his lawyers will bury everything. Oh, I don't think you'll be doing that, Victor's voice returned. The panic room's ventilation system whirred to life. A sweet chemical smell filled the air. Gas, Michael shouted, pulling his shirt over his nose. We need to move now. Sarah grabbed the USB. The maintenance shaft is already sealed, Victor chuckled through the speakers. But please try to run. It's more fun that way. The room began to spin as the gas took effect. Through blurring vision, Michael pulled a small oxygen mask from a hidden compartment. One mask, he gasped, offering it to Sarah. No. She pushed it back, pulling something from her boot. A small syringe. Military-grade antidote. I've learned to be prepared. She quickly injected herself, then Michael. We have 3 minutes before Victor overrides the whole system. Outside, Maxwell's voice boomed. The NSA is coming, yes, but they'll find 2 tragic victims of a gas leak. Such a shame. Michael's mind cleared as the antidote took effect. He looked at Sarah, no longer the woman who betrayed him, but a fighter who'd sacrificed everything to protect their daughter and expose the truth. The maintenance shaft isn't our only way out, he said, moving to the panic room's far wall. Remember how you always said I was paranoid? He pressed a hidden panel, revealing a narrow passage. Leads to the building next door. Had it built when I bought the penthouse. Michael Thompson, Sarah almost smiled. You beautiful paranoid man. Suddenly, Victor's voice returned. Touching reunion. But did you really think I wouldn't find your little escape route? The passage illuminated, revealing laser triggers along the floor. Motion sensors, Sarah recognized the setup. One wrong move, and the whole floor explodes, Victor finished. Now, about that USB drive. Through the cameras, they watched Maxwell and his men moving toward the panic room, wearing gas masks. They had less than 2 minutes before the room was breached. Michael's military training and Sarah's years on the run had taught them both one crucial lesson. Sometimes the best defense is a calculated offense. Victor, Sarah called out, her voice steady. Remember that backdoor program you taught me? The one that could slip past any security system? Through the cameras, they saw Victor's face on Maxwell's phone screen freeze. You didn't... Victor's voice trembled for the first time. I did. 15 years ago, before I ran. I left a sleeping program in Maxwell's systems, one that would activate if anything happened to me or someone accessed specific files. Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard. Like, say, the files you're trying to access right now. Maxwell's phone began to glitch. Then every screen in the panic room lit up with cascading code. No, no, no! Victor's panic was palpable. Do you know what you've done? Michael grabbed the USB drive, understanding dawning on his face. The evidence isn't just on this drive, is it? It's everywhere, Sarah confirmed. Every server, every backup, every system Victor just accessed trying to stop us. My program is releasing everything to the NSA, FBI, Interpol, and every major news outlet worldwide. Maxwell's rage exploded outside the panic room, but as his men moved to breach the door, the building's lights went out completely. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance. NSA breach teams. Michael smiled grimly. Right on schedule. Victor's desperate voice came through one last time. You don't understand, the cartel, when they find out we lost control. They already know, Sarah interrupted, holding up her phone showing a news alert. Maxwell Industries' stock is crashing. The cartel's money laundering network is exposed. It's over. The panic room door buckled under explosive charges. As Maxwell's men prepared to breach, Michael pulled Sarah close. Together, he asked. Together, she confirmed, both raising their weapons. The door blew open in a shower of sparks, but instead of Maxwell's men, NSA tactical teams flooded in, led by a familiar face, Michael's old commanding officer. Clear! Voices shouted from every direction. Through the smoke, they saw Maxwell and his men on their knees, surrounded by federal agents. Victor's face had disappeared from all screens, but alerts were already showing his location being traced. But this wasn't over yet. As federal agents secured the scene, Michael's satellite phone buzzed, a video call from Emma. Sarah grabbed his hand as they answered together, seeing their daughter's face for the first time as a family. Mom? And, are you my father? Emma's voice trembled, her eyes, so much like Michael's, filled with tears. You're safe now, sweetheart, Sarah choked out. We both are. But their reunion was interrupted by chaos erupting in the hallway. Victor, having somehow gained access to the building, had arrived in person. In a desperate last stand, he held Maxwell at gunpoint. If I'm going down, Victor snarled, I'm taking everyone with me. His free hand held a detonator. The building's rigged, has been for years. Maxwell's insurance policy. The NSA teams froze. Michael's commanding officer spoke into his radio. We need bomb disposal now. But Sarah stepped forward, still holding her phone so Emma could see. Victor, look at the screen. Look at what you're about to destroy. Victor's eyes locked onto Emma's face, recognition flickering. The baby, the one you were carrying. The daughter you helped me hide, Sarah said softly. Remember? Even then, you had a choice. You helped me protect her. You can make the right choice again. Victor's hand shook on the detonator. Maxwell tried to break free, but Victor's grip tightened. The cartel will get me anyway, Victor whispered. Not if you help us. Michael stepped forward. Your testimony, your insider knowledge, it's worth more than any revenge. Emma's voice cut through the tension. Please, Mr. Victor. My mom told me how you saved us once before. Tears streamed down Victor's face as 15 years of guilt and fear crashed down. The detonator clattered to the floor. As NSA agents rushed to secure both him and Maxwell, he looked at Sarah. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything." Maxwell, being led away in handcuffs, screamed threats and promises of revenge, but his words were empty now. His empire was falling, his connections exposed, his power stripped away. Michael turned to Sarah and Emma on the phone. "It's over. Really over." "Does this mean—" Emma began. "Yes," Sarah smiled through tears. "We're coming to get you. Both of us. Together," Michael added, holding Sarah close as their daughter beamed at them through the screen. 3 months later, the Thompson family stood in Michael's newly renovated penthouse, watching the sunset over Boston. Emma, now living with them full-time, was catching up on 15 years of missed father-daughter moments, while Sarah had taken a position as a cybersecurity consultant for the NSA. Maxwell's trial had made international headlines. With Victor's testimony and Sarah's evidence, the cartel's entire North American operation crumbled. Maxwell and his associates faced multiple life sentences. "You know," Emma said, her laptop open to her coding homework, "most kids just have a How I Met Your Mother story. Mine is more like how I reunited my parents by accidentally exposing a criminal empire." Michael and Sarah laughed, their hands intertwined. The past couldn't be erased, but they'd found something stronger: forgiveness, understanding, and a second chance at family. "Sometimes," Michael mused, looking at his wife and daughter, "the best things in life come disguised as our worst moments." Sarah squeezed his hand. "And sometimes, shelter from a storm is all you need to find your way home." If this story touched your heart, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community of storytelling lovers. From 1 to 10, how would you rate this tale of redemption, second chances, and family reunion? Let us know in the comments below where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this incredible journey of love and forgiveness. Remember, sometimes life's greatest storms lead us exactly where we need to be. See you in our next video.